My breath caught as warmth surrounded me. Hands that weren't Jack's. Touches I hadn't anticipated. It was a moment I never expected. A soft gasp, a low groan, a slow, unrelenting rhythm. This was supposed to be for Jack. A way to give him what he wanted. But now Emma, wasn't sure who was enjoying it more. Before we begin, please take a moment to like and subscribe. The longer you engage, the more these stories are recommended to others, helping to bring you even more content. Now, let's get started. In our Manhattan apartment, I moved against Jack, slow and deliberate, feeling his body respond beneath me. His grip tightened at my waist, his breath coming in uneven bursts. It had been a while since he was like this, so desperate, so eager, so completely lost in the moment. But it wasn't entirely because of me. His eyes weren't fully here. There was something distant in them. A flicker of longing just beyond my reach. I recognized it instantly. A hunger that didn't belong to me. I had seen the way his gaze lingered when a younger woman passed by on the bustling New York streets. How his scrolling slowed at certain photos. How his attention caught on specific faces and bodies. It wasn't disrespectful. It wasn't even conscious most of the time, but it was there. A quiet fantasy he hadn't spoken aloud. I watched as he let go, giving in to whatever vision lived in his mind, gripping my hips harder as he reached his peak. As I lay beside him afterward, feeling the slow rise and fall of his chest, I made a decision. If this was what he wanted, I could give it to him on my terms. Morning light spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our bedroom, casting soft shadows over Jack's face. He reached for his phone, still half asleep, but I was already watching him. Last night's realization hadn't faded. If anything, it felt clearer in the daylight. I saw it. I said, my voice even. His fingers paused just above the screen. I saw the way you looked at me, or rather, the way you weren't looking at me. His eyes flicked to mine, hesitation flickering across his face. He wasn't panicked, but he was treading carefully. I let the silence stretch, making him feel the weight of my words before I continued. You don't have to explain. I already know. I reached out, my fingers trailing lightly over his chest, grounding him, keeping the moment intimate. I want to give you what you want. His body stiffened, but he didn't pull away. And what do I want? He asked, his throat tightening, his breathing subtly shifting. Something younger, I replied, holding his gaze. A slow exhale left his lips, measured and controlled, but I saw the reaction in his eyes. He sat up slightly, running a hand through his hair. You don't have to, I know, I interrupted smoothly. But I want to. The air between us thickened, the weight of unspoken fantasies pressing down. His body language was conflicted, torn between desire and hesitation. I could see the war in his head, the battle between wanting this and being afraid to say it aloud. Are you sure? He asked, his voice lower now, testing the waters, waiting for me to take it back. I leaned in, brushing my lips against his ear, letting him feel my breath before I whispered. I wouldn't have brought it up if I wasn't. I pulled back, holding his gaze, watching the tension shift into something raw and unspoken. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no, and that was all I needed. The idea had gone from a whispered fantasy to something real. We had spent nights searching, scrolling through profiles, dipping our toes into something neither of us had ever considered before. At first, it was simple. We were looking for her, Jack's fantasy, and I was just making it happen. But nothing felt right, too forward, too fake, too forced. Then a message popped up, a couple, Lily and Ethan. I hesitated. This wasn't the plan. I had agreed to bring another woman into our bed, not change the rules. Before I could say no, Jack spoke. What if it's not just for me? I turned to him, meeting his gaze. There was something deliberate in the way he said it, like he had been waiting for the right moment. What do you mean? I asked. His lips curled slightly. If we're doing this, why not make it something we both enjoy? I exhaled, shaking my head. That's not why we started this. He didn't argue. He just watched me, patient and certain. So plans change. I should have shut it down, reminded him that this wasn't about me. But then he reached for my hand, his voice quieter now. You deserve this too. I swallowed. I don't need... You think I haven't noticed the way men look at you, he said, tilting his head slightly. You don't even see it, do you? I had noticed the glances, the fleeting moments of interest on the crowded streets of Manhattan, but I had never let myself entertain the thought. And now he was asking me to. I hesitated, feeling the weight of it. But as I looked into his eyes, I knew he wasn't just trying to convince me he wanted this for me too. I took a slow breath, my fingers tightening around his. Okay, I said. His eyes flickered with something unreadable, a slow smile spreading across his face. And just like that, we crossed a line we could never uncross. We sat in the dim glow of our living room, the Manhattan skyline twinkling through the large windows, the weight of what we were about to do settling between us. Neither of us spoke at first. The anticipation and uncertainty hung in the air. I exhaled slowly. So, how is this actually going to work? Jack shifted beside me, rolling his shoulders. I guess we figure it out as we go. I gave him a look. That's not a plan. He huffed a laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. Okay, fine. Do we stay in the same room or separate? The thought made my stomach tighten. Same room? I said quickly, then hesitated. I think. He raised a brow. You think, I mean, being apart feels weird, right? Yeah, he admitted, dragging a hand down his face. And do we just start? I let out a short laugh. Do we need a signal? A whistle? He smirked. God, no. I shook my head, pressing my fingers to my temples. This is so surreal. He opened his mouth to respond, but a knock at the door stopped him. We both froze. I turned to him, heart hammering. Are you ready? He swallowed hard. Guess we're about to find out. Jack stood and headed for the door, and I gripped the couch, listening as laughter and footsteps filled the air of our New York apartment. And just like that, it had begun. The moment the bedroom door shut, hesitation disappeared. Heat rose between us, thick with anticipation, charged with the weight of what we were about to do. Clothes slipped away, bodies pressed together, hands explored, mouths claimed. Lily wasted no time, her fingers slipping beneath Jack's waistband, working his belt open with a slow, knowing rhythm. His breath hitched, his muscles tensing beneath her touch. I felt the shift inside me. This wasn't just a fantasy anymore. It was happening, but I wasn't a bystander. I turned, meeting Ethan's gaze, my fingers trailing over his chest, feeling the tension rippling beneath his skin. I mirrored Lily's movements, my lips grazing his jaw, my hands venturing lower, reveling in the way his breath came faster beneath my touch. He exhaled sharply, responding to me in a way that sent a thrill through my veins. Then, in one fluid motion, Ethan's strong hands lifted me. A quiet gasp escaped as I was lowered onto the bed, my body settling into the soft sheets, the city lights casting a soft glow through the window. His weight shifted over me, his lips finding my skin, trailing lower, teasing, claiming. The sensation sent a deep shudder through me, unravelling me in slow, aching waves before I could process the heat pooling inside me. Lily moved above me, her breath warm against my skin, her body pressing into mine as she settled over me, pinning me beneath her. A quiet moan left her lips as she rocked forward, her pleasure mixing with mine, her movements slow and intoxicating. I heard Jack groan, deep and guttural, his fingers twisting into Lily's hair as she worked him with steady, deliberate movements. I felt the rhythm building, every touch, every sound weaving together into something primal, something unstoppable. Then Ethan's hands gripped my hips from behind, pulling me onto my knees. A deep, rolling heat coursed through me as a slow, insistent rhythm took hold, rocking me forward, driving me deeper into the chaos around me. My fingers clenched the sheets, pleasure pulsing through every nerve as I surrendered to the intensity, to the feeling of being completely taken. Across from me, Lily arched, rolling her hips in time with Jack's movements, her breath coming in ragged gasps. His grip tightened on her waist, guiding her, matching her rhythm. But his eyes flicked toward me, locking onto mine, watching me, needing me, wanting me just as much as he wanted her. And then, another shift, deeper, stronger, overwhelming. I felt them on all sides, bodies pressing, hands gripping, moving in sync, sending pleasure through me in wave after relentless wave. Every inch of my skin burned with sensation. My breath caught in my throat, the overwhelming mix of touch, movement, and sound stripping away any lingering hesitation. I was beyond thought now, lost in the pleasure, in the heat, in the wild, unrestrained rhythm that held me captive. The tension coiled tighter, reaching a fever pitch, the air thick with breathless moans and muffled cries. My body trembled, every muscle wound impossibly tight, the pleasure spiraling higher, threatening to consume me whole. And then release a sudden, breathtaking wave crashed over me, shaking me to my core, leaving me weightless and trembling in its wake. I gasped, my body still pulsing, my breath uneven as I collapsed into the sheets, completely undone. Around me, the others followed, the room filled with the aftermath of raw, unfiltered pleasure. For a long moment, none of us moved. I turned my head, meeting Jack's gaze. His chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. His skin flushed, his eyes dark with something I had never seen before, not just desire, something deeper, something awakened. In that moment, I knew we had stepped into something new, and there was no turning back. The room was thick with heat, the scent of sweat and satisfaction lingering in the air. My body was still humming, every nerve alive, my breath slow but uneven. I lay tangled between them, skin against skin. The weight of what we had done settling over me like a warm, unshakable presence. Jack turned to me, his fingers brushing along my arm, his eyes unreadable. There was something different in his gaze, not just fulfillment, not just desire, but something deeper, heavier. We had gone somewhere neither of us had ever been, and now we stood on the other side, forever changed. Lily and Ethan shifted, exchanging quiet, knowing smiles before gathering themselves, moving with an ease that made me realize this wasn't new to them. But for us, this wasn't just an indulgence. It was a choice that had rewritten something fundamental in our marriage. As the door clicked shut behind them, silence settled over our Manhattan apartment. I exhaled, turning onto my side, meeting Jack's gaze once more. He studied me, searching, then smirked a slow, satisfied grin that sent a new kind of heat curling in my stomach. I let out a breathless laugh, shaking my head as I whispered, "Well, now what?" I had told myself this was for Jack, a way to make his fantasy real, but now I wasn't sure who enjoyed it more. The silence lingered, heavy with the weight of what we had just done. Outside, the hum of Manhattan's streets filtered through the windows, a distant reminder of the world continuing beyond our walls. Jack shifted, propping himself up on one elbow, his eyes still locked on mine. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, cautious, as if he were testing the ground beneath us. I nodded, but my chest tightened. "Are you?" I countered, searching his face for any hint of regret. His smirk softened into something more vulnerable, and he reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Yeah," he said. But there was a pause, a flicker of something unspoken. That was intense. I laughed. The sound sharper than I intended. That's one way to put it. I sat up, pulling the sheet around me, suddenly aware of the cool air against my skin. The city lights painted patterns across the room, and I stared at them, trying to anchor myself. Did we just make a mistake? I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Jack's brow furrowed, and he sat up beside me, the bed creaking softly. "Do you think it was a mistake?" His tone wasn't defensive, but curious, like he genuinely wanted to know. I shook my head, not entirely sure. I don't know. It didn't feel like one, but now I gestured vaguely at the space between us. "What does this mean for us?" He exhaled, running a hand through his hair, a habit I'd come to recognize as his way of buying time. "It means we tried something new," he said finally. "Something we both wanted, even if we didn't say it at first." He reached for my hand, his fingers warm against mine. "Emma, I saw you tonight. You weren't just going along with it. You were in it, as much as I was. My cheeks flushed, and I looked away. The memory of Ethan's hands, Lily's breath, still vivid. Yeah, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. The admission felt like stepping off a ledge, but Jack's grip on my hand tightened, grounding me. Then maybe it's not about what it means, he said. Maybe it's about what we do next. His eyes searched mine, and for the first time, I saw not just desire, but a kind of clarity, a willingness to face whatever came. I swallowed, nodding slowly. So, what do we do next? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled me closer, his lips brushing my forehead. We talk, he said. We figure out what this changes, what it doesn't. But I know one thing: I don't want to lose you. Not to this. Not to anything. The words settled over me, easing the knot in my chest. I leaned into him, the familiar warmth of his body a contrast to the chaos of the night. I don't want to lose you either, I said. But we need to be honest about everything. Jack nodded, his expression serious. Deal. He paused, then added with a small grin. You know, you surprised me tonight. I didn't expect you to dive in like that. I laughed, swatting his arm. You're one to talk. You weren't exactly holding back with Lily. His grin widened. But there was a flicker of something else, guilt. Maybe, or uncertainty. Was that okay, he asked, his voice softer now. I mean, seeing me with her, I took a deep breath, considering the question. The image of Jack with Lily, the way his hands had moved, the sounds he'd made, it had stirred something in me. A mix of jealousy and thrill I hadn't expected. It was complicated, I said honestly, but it didn't feel wrong, not in the moment. He nodded, his thumb tracing circles on my hand. Same. Seeing you with Ethan, it hit me harder than I thought it would. But it also, I don't know, it made me want you more. The confession hung between us, raw and unguarded. I felt a rush of warmth, not just from his words, but from the realization that we were navigating this together, no matter how uncharted the territory. The next morning, sunlight poured into our kitchen, glinting off the stainless steel appliances. I sipped coffee at the island, the city's hum a familiar backdrop. Jack walked in, his hair still damp from the shower, and leaned against the counter. So, he said, breaking the comfortable silence, are we talking about last night? Or are we pretending it didn't happen? I snorted, setting my mug down. Pretending's not really an option, is it? He chuckled, grabbing a coffee cup. Fair point. He poured himself a cup, then turned to face me. Okay. Then, let's talk. What's on your mind? I hesitated, swirling the coffee in my mug. I keep thinking about why I agreed to it. I told myself it was for you, but it wasn't just that. I wanted it too. And now I'm wondering what that says about me. Jack's expression softened, and he set his cup down, moving to stand beside me. It says you're human. Emma, you're allowed to want things, to explore. It doesn't make you less. His words were simple, but they hit deep. I looked up at him, searching his face. And you? What does it say about you? He shrugged, a half smile tugging at his lips. That I'm married to someone who's braver than I am. I rolled my eyes, but my chest warmed. Flatterer. We spent the morning talking, really talking, in a way we hadn't in years. We laid out our fears, our desires, the boundaries we hadn't known we needed until now. It wasn't easy. There were moments of discomfort, flashes of doubt, but it felt necessary, like cleaning a wound to let it heal. We agreed to pause, to take time to process before deciding if this was a one-time experiment or something more. Over the next few weeks, life in our Manhattan apartment returned to a kind of normalcy. But it was different. The air between us felt charged, not with tension but with possibility. We were more open, more attuned to each other. Small gestures, a touch on the arm, a lingering glance carried new weight. But there were also questions we couldn't ignore. Had we opened a door we couldn't close? Would the memory of that night always linger, a shadow or a spark? One evening, as we walked along the Hudson River, the city lights reflecting on the water, Jack stopped, turning to face me. "I keep thinking about what you said," he began, his voice low against the evening breeze, "about who enjoyed it more. And I think it doesn't matter. What matters is that we did it together, that we chose this, together." I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, together." I reached for his hand, and we stood there, the city stretching out around us, a reminder of how vast and unpredictable life could be. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other, and for now, that was enough. Months later, we found ourselves at a crossroads. The experience with Lily and Ethan had shifted something fundamental, not just in our marriage, but in how we saw ourselves. We started therapy, not because we were broken, but because we wanted to understand what we'd unlocked. Our therapist, a kind woman with a sharp mind, helped us navigate the complexities of desire, trust, and commitment. We learned to articulate boundaries, to voice needs we'd buried for years. It wasn't always comfortable, but it was honest. One night, over dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant in the West Village, Jack brought it up again. "Do you ever think about doing it again?" His tone was casual, but his eyes were intent, searching. I took a sip of wine, buying time. "Sometimes," I admitted, not because I need it, but because it showed me a side of us I didn't know existed. "What about you?" He leaned back, considering. "I think about it, but not without you. Never without you." His words were a promise, and I felt the weight of them settle in my chest. "Same," I said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "If we ever do, it's because we both want it. No secrets, no assumptions." He nodded, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Deal." We clinked our glasses, the sound sharp in the quiet restaurant, a toast to whatever came next. The city buzzed around us, alive with possibility, and I felt a quiet certainty that, no matter where this path led, we'd walk it together. I had told myself this was for Jack, a way to make his fantasy real. But now, I knew it was for both of us, a choice that had reshaped our marriage, not into something less, but into something more? Would you ever cross this line for the person you love? Or did we take it too far? Let me know what you think.